Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
Oh, the hilarity. Bill Willingham, ladies and gentlemen.
Clear around, but then I lost my...
You gonna do laps? Don't do laps around CONvergence. Here we are at CONvergence 2012 here in Bloomington, Minnesota, at the CONvergence. I've never been to a CONvergence. I've only been to one con, so this is and I've never been dipped in a con. This has been nice. So the Dork Forest, live Dork Forest here at the convention, and I'm very excited to be here. Wait, how about a round of applause for our live audio folk? There's live audio and lighting going on. It'll be fixed later, of course, by Patrick Brady, who does my audio fixes, and Vilmos works on the website, and Mike Rickberg just sang that song you heard, and he will not be singing the Mexican Hat Dance live. But I will put it when we drop it on iTunes. The websites, of course, JackieCation.com and DorkForest.com. And let's just get ready. I'm very excited. Bill Willingham's here. Let's have a big round of applause for Bill Willingham.
I love this. The lights are so bright. I can see one person here. That's very not intimidating.
And she's the paparazzi.
Are you the paparazzi? All right.
Excellent.
Tasteful.
Very
tasteful is what I'm saying.
That's right. This is also being videoed, so if CONvergence people want to order a video, that's why I brought it up a notch. Which is
too bad they're videoing this. We actually did a much better show backstage just now.
Yeah, we were just talking for about 45 minutes, and I was like, oh, stop talking.
Good stuff.
Anyway, Bill Willingham writes about fairy tale peoples, and I really like it. So, Fables, I don't know if you guys read Fables. Do you read that? Huh? And I think the first thing I read of yours was Elementals, and then all the Fables spin-offs, of course, which is Jack Offables. Jack of Fables, and then Fairest and Cinderella, Spy, and then everything cool like that. Anyway, so you live here in Minnesota, correct?
Yes, I am. We are both here in Minnesota.
We are. I used to live in Minnesota. I used to live over on the West Bank by the Gaza Strip, but now... It is, but it's exciting. Are you going to be doing other things here at the convention, I wonder?
Well, I had lunch.
Oh, did you have walleye strips?
I did not. For those of you that are not, well, you're probably all native Minnesotans. I mean, you are required by law to eat walleye here at least once a day, and I got my my walleye communion done early at breakfast, and so I got to have
breakfast walleye.
Pot roast for lunch. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. That's a good meal as well. My husband Andy had never had walleye strips. He was like, "What is it?" And I said, "It's a piece of fried walleye." And he was like, "That is all good." And then we had it. That's a good story. I'm going to tell it again later. Holy shit.
So twice now you've mentioned him as my husband, Andy. So
pretty proud. Pretty
do we
psyched.
just call him my for short?
Yeah, it's my husband, Andy. My husband.
I called him my husband, Andy, too, after you introduced me that way, and he just gave me a look.
It's weird because initially I could not say the word husband without giggling.
Really?
Because, I'm recently married.
Looky, I got one. Is that what you're saying?
Very weird.
Okay.
It didn't, because I was alone for so many years. And that is why.
It suddenly turned sad.
Just poignant.
Okay.
And I'm a beacon of hope. So we have that going for us. Should I just ask questions that I have from listeners?
Ask questions, sure. First I want to answer the Jack Offables thing.
Yes.
I wanted to just call it Jack. It was a spin-off of Fables. And they said, no, it's got to mention Fables. It's got to be Jack of Fables, Jack of Fables. I didn't see that it was actually Jack Offables until about 13 issues in. And then I called him and said, you know what the title of this book is, right? And I go, Jack of Fables. Like, no, read it again. It's Jack Offables. That's the title you forced me to use. And they kind of like, we would have let you have your way if you'd thought of that sooner. But
it's better as Jack Offables, quite honestly. I don't know. He's a bit of a tool
We should have
bag.
had more of him sleeping with his various sisters if that was going to be the title.
If it was, or more alone time.
Or more alone time. Yes.
And
okay.
that brings us into my first question from Negative Steve. At Negative Steve Twitter, he.
So you're saying that an implication of masturbation is a good segue for your first question?
For my first question.
Okay, this is going to be great.
Will there be more Jack of Fables? Will he return soon and or ever?
Will there be more Jack of Fables?
Right.
Yes
there were
and no.
75 issues?
There was exactly 50 issues of
50
Jack.
issues. Okay, I got to
We entered with a big Shakespearean ending on issue 50.
Right.
Well, see, to answer that question, I have to spoil the ending, and so judgment call. Should I give you an answer? There may be.
Oh, fair enough.
Okay.
That is a spoiler. The word maybe is always...
Yeah.
Wait, but the thing is in the Fables universe, people are as powerful as they are believed in. Is that correct?
Well, that's the prevailing theory. Although there is just one person who knows how it really works, and it hasn't all been revealed yet.
Oh.
The thing about Jack is that near the last 10 issues or so, we pushed the clock ahead into the future quite a bit. So regardless of what happened in that final Shakespearean ending issue of Jack 50,
right,
in the Fables book, that stuff hasn't happened yet. So it is conceivable that there could be more Jack.
Right.
And there's at least one way, sorry, there's a hair. There's one way that post Jack 50 that he could put in an appearance or two. So it's possible.
And
anyway.
With comic books, who dies? Who dies in a comic book? Right? Nobody dies in a comic book.
Well, that's the rule. That's why we set out to break the rule.
Oh, is that what it was?
There are some character deaths, at least in Fables, that are not going to
be undone?
Be reversed.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well.
And some that might.
That is so fair. Okay. Karen Frank wants to know that since you created these amazing antagonists, the adversary and Mr. Dark, do you feel the rising pressure to create another giant adversary like that?
No. Well, yes and no. I'm giving such wishy-washy answers here.
Right. Maybe.
As a general rule, whenever I introduce a villain in any comic book, starting with the Elementals and with the short-lived Coventry, etc., is that when you introduce a villain, try and make the villain the most evil thing ever. Make the villain someone that the reader kind of shudders to spend any time at all with. And to limited success, more in some cases, less in others. So of course we tried to make Mr. Dark pretty...
Mr. Dark was extra creepy.
He was a pretty creepy dude.
It for me. I don't do creep well.
Yeah, but you, in my mind, you don't do two godlike villains back to back. You get a big, we've overcome something that's cosmic and could have destroyed us all, followed by something that just might cancerously eat away at a family from the inside, as opposed to another big
issues.
thing.
That would be the best. That'd be sort of a nice interim villain. Is something that was
no Mr. Dark, just a lot of people, harping on each other until they all develop eating disorders.
Excellent. Have you ever thought about writing like a sequel to 2 Weeks Notice? I don't know if you've ever seen 2 Weeks Notice or Music and Lyrics.
No, in my life I've never actually gotten 2 weeks notice. I tend to get the Bill, you're out now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh gosh, yes. Yeah.
Have you ever now you've been doing comics for a long time, obviously, and you've been writing forever. But what were there day jobs in the beginning? Like, was there? Did you
oh God, no! I was talking about my personal life.
You've been given notice, like immediate notice from like friends and family. What are we doing? What just happened? You've taken over.
When a young lady looks at you and says it wasn't just the orgasms I faked, it was the conversation, the interest, everything, you kind of get to... No.
Have we gotten poignant again?
Okay. No. What was the question leading into that? Oh, 2 weeks' notice. No, I haven't seen it.
It's a terrible movie with Hugh Grant that I thoroughly enjoy. No, nothing? Nothing?
Got nothing for you.
All right. How about Avengers? Is that better?
Avengers?
Yeah, did you see that? Okay, I'm done.
Can I do a sequel to Avengers?
Yes. You wrote Justice League, didn't you?
For a little while.
Yeah.
And then, Justice Society. See, I don't even know what I've written.
Well, no, because Lee Bennett asks, did you find the difficulty of characters in team-up books like Justice League? I thought it was Justice League.
Well, that's Justice Society was the proto-Justice League.
Oh, was it?
And the difficulty of characters in team-up books is totally dependent on who gets to run the book. When I was doing Elementals, there was no hierarchy saying you have to have this character do this, or we're borrowing this character for a while to be in this book. Justice Society, they guaranteed, you'll have these characters, we won't mess with them, et cetera, et cetera. I spent a year, silly me, getting them all into the positions I wanted them to be in just to really get started with what I wanted. But by that time, they decided that, no, we're taking this character for Justice League. This character's dying, this character's going mad with power. So the difficulty, of course, is to write... within the confines of constantly shifting ideas from on high.
Right.
To write comic books in the company owns the character sort of way, you need to be a hit-and-run writer. If you've got a good idea, get it out quick. Don't intricately plot and plan. I mean, in Fables, I have at least one plot line that is about to come to fruition that's been set up for 8 years. I can do the long game.
Right.
In Fables. Can't do that in Justice
With
Machine,
DC
Justice Society. You need to, if you've got a story idea, get it out quick and
don't build a fort that they're just going to punch a hole in.
Yeah,
that's unfortunate.
It's the difference between in one you start a marriage and the other you're visiting a hooker. You just got to get.
A six-arc hooker.
That was a terrible metaphor.
No. Actually, I think it was apropos. No.
Well, I did leave money on the dresser as I went from the series, but yeah, okay.
DC should have left it for you.
Yeah.
Right.
You're right.
Aren't you the whore in that scenario?
I feel a little dirty now. Yes, I did.
I'm just clarifying for the. Okay. How about John Slade's question, which is what similarities and differences between the industry now and the 80s and 90s when desktop publishing boom in individual titles profoundly affect your control of the whatever. Wow, did I not? That didn't ever. Yeah, so in the 80s and 90s, from then to now, do you think that's...
In the early 80s, one of the main differences is you could kind of know, or at least close to know, everyone in the industry. Nowadays, that's not possible.
It's so big?
I hate to sound like an old duffer, but these kids these days, I don't know one from another with their new books and their new ways and their new ideas, et cetera, et cetera.
They are crazy.
No, it's huge.
Yeah.
Comics used to be this wide and, that deep in the sense that every book had a lot of readers. Now comics is this wide. Lots and lots of people doing it, and only that deep. I mean, even the most successful book will have maybe 30 to 50,000 readers. So yeah, it's completely changed in that sense.
So are there do you think, and I just started reading comic books probably 9 years ago, and so I just learned about going to the long boxes in She-Hulk. Anyway, I didn't know about long boxes, but the thing is do you think that there are more readers today than there were in the 80s and 90s? Or do you think that they're the same number of readers but sort of spread out? Is that what you sort of meant? Because there do seem to be a lot of titles, and I do seem to be spending all of my disposable income on too many titles.
I think there's more dedicated readers now. I mean, comics, they used to be ubiquitous. You could find them in any drugstore. So you had the casual reader was everything. The guy that would grab a comic because he felt like reading a comic, toss it out. Maybe someone would pick it up, maybe someone wouldn't. But that was the industry back then, and there were a lot of them because there were less less competition for your moment. Now you cannot just casually pick up comics. Comics are not just out there. You have to go looking for them.
Right, and the arc is too big too. Like if I want to start something, I feel intimidated in starting in the middle of, to start in the middle of Fables. Like when because I recommend Fables to people.
Yeah.
But there's at least 11 books.
Yeah.
What book number are you on?
Volume 17.
17.
Like that, so
yeah, and
at least 11.
At least 11. It's because Andy owns them all from the beginning. He's been on the ground floor of Fables.
Andy got really tall because you pointed
really
up
tall.
towards us.
I really admire him. I do look up to him. I've always looked up to him.
So
anyway, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful moment. Anyway, we still say spoon or be spooned when we go to bed.
Great.
Yeah, there you go. Huh? Safe space. Safe space. CONvergence, safe space. Okay, so. You guys are like, fuck off. Move along. Okay, so fair enough.
Yeah.
Next question?
No, wait.
Okay,
I'm going to answer your question because it's troubling to get into because we do these epic series. Look, we've been begging all along to be treated as a legitimate literary medium. To be a legitimate literary medium, you cannot have a complete formulaic, one issue per story. Right. The hero has to beat the villain by this page, and those are all rules that you have to introduce the hero for someone who's never read him before. He has to have the fight with the villain by such and such a page. Has to be resolved by this. If you do formula, you're never going to be serious literature. We want to be serious literature. You're going to get long form.
Right.
There have been fables. There was one fable story that went on for 12 issues, The Good Prince.
Right.
There are fable stories that have gone on for 1 page and everything in between. When story length dictates what you're going to do, then you're not serving the story. You're serving the perceived attention span of your reader, but that's not what we're setting out to do. Plus, one thing they never had then. Comics back then and until just recently were disposable literature. You read it, you throw it away. That's it. It was like a newspaper. Some people saved it, but they were kind of like...
But for the most part, people just read them and they were done?
But now, yeah. Or maybe they read them again, but you didn't hold on to them, so you don't have long epics.
Oh, okay.
The advantage of Fables now is, yes, there's a lot. If you come into the middle, you could be lost.
World.
But every single issue of Fables has been in print since Fable 1. Okay. We have never had a single issue of Fables out of print in some form or another. Everyone who wants to read Fables, for example, this is not just a commercial for my own book, can come in for issue 1, and it's not like I'm going to get on this bandwagon. But I've missed it. It's too far along. It's not a bandwagon. It's not a bus or a taxi you've missed. It's a road you can walk on. And it's like, no one is going to, I'm not going to take this road home. Someone else has used it before.
Right.
You start your trip home or your trip to wherever, anywhere you want, anytime you want. There's plenty of people on the road already. Some people have been there for a while. Some people are just starting out. And some people are going to start after you do. It's perfectly easy to start the story.
I'm going to backpedal completely.
Do that.
And say, because it's not like the characters are not recognizable, and that if you read one issue, by the end of it, you're like, oh, I get it. This is a family. But that guy is obviously the big bad wolf, and even if you don't recognize the icons from fairy tales, you know that that's his family, and the wind is involved. All right, I'm in. You could follow the story wherever you start. I think you're right.
They talk about the value of the elevator pitch, which is a pitch so succinct that you could give it in the average elevator ride. Yeah. And I've never had a book before that I could do as an elevator pitch, except Fables, which is every fairy tale character this is what they've been up to lately. That's it. That's all you need to really know about this book to get started.
Right.
Actually, you don't. You could go in cold, and you'll find that out within the first few pages.
Right. You'll recognize the tropes at the very least as you go along, just because they're heroes and villains, and you're like, oh, I understand that's a good guy, and I understand that's a crazy woman, or a good heroine. right, I'll be over here.
I'm gonna avoid the easy joke there.
Please do.
Thank you.
All right. Somebody asked me to ask you about.
I don't actually show up on film, so I'm sorry. But...
Or are you a vampire? It's
All right.
I don't have the right father
what?
issues.
Someone's asking about Leia?
The guy who does your inks, I think.
Steve Leialoha.
Thank you. Thanks for playing.
It's an easy name to remember.
At any time, by the way.
He's Hawaiian.
Okay.
And his name is composed of the two words in Hawaiian that everyone knows, Alei and Aloha. That's it.
That's it.
That's his name.
Steve Leialoha.
Right.
Okay.
I thought it was made up for a long time because, that's just the two words in Hawaiian everyone knows. You're a pretend Hawaiian. But no, that's his name.
And he does the inking? True story. It's a good one.
Yeah.
And so the question is how great is that guy?
How great is that guy?
Bob Calhoun would like to know how great is that guy.
That guy is so great.
Isn't he great?
That guy's wonderful. No, he is. Don't laugh at that. He's a good fellow. I'm not saying that ironically or sarcastically. No, he is a wonderful inker, terrific artist. When we talked about having a regular inker for the series, I talked about let's get someone who can just draw like a dream because. You cannot be a good inker if you don't know how to draw yourself. And he's just the regrets is that we've done a couple of stories with Steve as the penciler, the illustrator, and he's wonderful. But boy, he can ink up a storm, and he is just a fine fellow.
All right, I like it. And so. BillWillingham.com, obviously, you said is going to be revamped, and
it was lying fallow for a while, but it's about to reemerge from a cocoon better.
And you're on Twitter, and everybody can go see that.
I'm on Twitter,
and all of your stuff is still in print, so everybody can go read all of that.
All the Fable stuff is. Lots of my early work. Elementals will never be seen again because it's owned by a madman.
Okay.
But it's a long story, and kind of a bitter story.
Oh, bitter?
And this would not be a funny podcast if we got into it.
All right, but one day we will hunt him down.
Yeah, you'd
with
think,
pitchforks
but no.
and fire. But no, he lives on a mountain. Okay, so you know what you could do? You could vilify him.
Yeah, I've had a lot of women tell me, "Do you know what you can do?" But go ahead, give me. Try for one I haven't heard before.
Excellent. You could vilify him and put him in a comic book.
I could vilify him and put him in a comic book. Funny story there. Amy Kahn, who was as lovely a woman as you can be, broke up with me just about the time I was doing the third issue of Elementals, and it was a story where we revealed that our villain was actually Lazarus, who was raised by the dead. From the dead by Jesus, but didn't want to be not dead since he was in paradise, but Jesus to show off said, "No, you're back alive," and so he turned kind of pesky. But there was just a one-panel sequence of showing that Jesus was reviled because he consorted with prostitutes. So I had to draw a biblical prostitute, and I was kind of mad at Amy at the time. So I drew her as the biblical prostitute.
She looked
cathartic.
Good.
It was fine. She looked great. But anyway,
there you go.
I got over. You're mad at first, but you get over it. And about 10 years later, I was snowed in Wisconsin with nothing to do. This is pre-internet and pre just about everything fun except for the telephone, and I decided to see how many, I'm going to be here for a few days, how many old friends can I get recontacted just using the telephone until they dig me out.
That's an awesome game. I like that.
I called her after about 10 years. 10 years never speaking to her. Got her on the phone, said, "Amy, this is Bill." And she says, "Yeah, I saw the issue." That was the first thing she said. Now, that's very disconcerting, but it's also very complimentary. It's like, yeah, I got your likeness pretty damn good, didn't I, Amy?
And I was still buying issues. So she was still collecting the book.
Well,
and reading the book.
She was then.
Well, sure.
I don't, Elementals was long gone by that time. Yeah, great. So we had a nice talk. She was married to the guy that she left me for. Heart surgeon, so, I can understand that. But And she was a sculptress. She was just this amazing sculptress. Did stuff for the Franklin Mint to make money, but she did portraiture for her art, and it was just terrific.
Well, that's amazing.
And one day, recently, I Google searched her just to see if she'd kept up with her sculpture. That like now everyone's has web pages now, and she used herself as a model a lot, which is great because you may be my ex, but I still have a nude of you in my library anytime I want. But I saw some of the new sculptures she'd done since we'd been together, and she ran off and married this heart surgeon.
Right.
And there was one that was obviously her as a model, and it was a naked woman kind of writhing on the ground, wrapped in barbed wire, and just in agony. I thought, well, that's she was never that dark. That is a dark piece of work. And then I saw the title, which is Wedlock, and I laughed. I called her up on that. So, yeah.
Oh, did you call her again?
Oh, God, yeah. I had to say,
she's never changed her number.
As a matter of fact, my very first, her studio number, she hasn't. My very first words is, Amy, I saw the sculpture. So, it was very good.
That is fun.
Except for the fact that he turned out to be a creep and she was in agony.
Right, that it didn't work out. But you know what she did? She created some amazing art from that.
She created some amazing art.
That's
yeah.
No, have you done a lot of other kinds of art besides drawing and writing? I mean, did you do fine art yourself? Have you painted and done sculpture and anything else like that? Well,
I do a nice interpretive dance that I'll do.
You do a little bit of
now.
that?
No.
You ever do a little macaroni and gold paint?
Macaroni figures, yes.
Yes? You do live in Minnesota. I mean, there might be some glue gun and some crafting going on.
Yeah.
Make your own canoe.
I write. I have drawn. I may draw again in the future. That's it. That's
You haven't done a lot of drawing recently, or you're mostly...
I got slow. I got particular. Oddly enough, early on, I was known for someone who could draw fast and finish an issue when someone else had blown it. But unfortunately, when I draw fast, I draw badly. Not to say I draw well when I draw slowly, but at the time, I was turning in a lot of bad work, and I got particular. And as I got insistent on actually only producing at least things that passed my muster,
right.
I slowed down. So it was a choice. I could possibly draw an issue a month and be in the comics field, but I could not do anything but that.
Okay.
Or I could do something like write fables and novels and et cetera, et cetera. So the choice was obvious. Right.
So do you ever draw for fun, though?
Sure.
Oh, good.
Sure.
That's it's nice. I like it when people they still do things for fun.
Sure.
Yeah.
You bet.
Skateboarding? Anything?
No.
A lot of
no.
Do you do any of the outdoor Minnesota things?
Well, I moved to Minnesota just because I was visiting a friend I knew in the Army, and he is Mr. Outdoors guy, doubly so since he retired and decided that I was going to be his permanent playmate. So he does hunting, he does fishing, he does motorcycling in the summer and snowmobiling in the winter, et cetera, and I'm expected to do all that
dipped.
with him. So
do you do that with him?
He's a career killer. Yeah, I am easily seduced away from the work table. But I'm trying to be good. I'm trying to get some stuff done.
Okay, but that's great. So you go out hunting and fishing and snowmobiling and motorcycling? Well,
I don't do that. I was already 17 once. I had a motorcycle when I'm 17.
Okay.
I found out why they have, and this is going to floor you guys.
All right.
They have this version of motorcycles that have 2 extra wheels and a canopy over you to protect you from all the crap that's wrong with riding motorcycles.
And there's usually a 57-year-old guy riding it.
Yeah.
But he's not really riding it. Isn't he driving
Yeah.
it?
As a matter of fact, I drove one of these things today, and it is so wonderful, and it is so much better than a motorcycle. Mike, he's into that kind of stuff, but I find that a vehicle is good for getting you down the road, and a car works just fine.
It is nice. You know what I've always wanted? I always wanted the MASH Jeep, and then a Jeep from the TV show MASH, like a 1952 But it
like
turns out
a MASH era Jeep, or you wanted one that was actually used on
a MASH era Jeep from like Korea, and then I rode in
when
one.
I was in the Army, I was still in the.
Were they still riding around in that era?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm an old man. When I was in the Army, you
were in the Army in 1952?
I was in the Army in 77, but that's what we're still
77.
using. Yeah. They got all the good stuff. They got the better uniforms, the better boots, the better guns, the Humvees instead of the Jeeps. As soon as I left, it's like, he's out, let's get the good stuff.
Right, and then they had boom boxes to play music at the...
Oh, no, we had boom boxes.
Say anything thing, no?
We had boom boxes.
Oh, did you have boom boxes?
Yeah. I did not have a boom box, no. So anyway, you had a MASH Jeep.
I always wanted, and then I got to ride one, and then I never wanted the MASH Jeep because the shocks suck.
And they're terrible.
Yeah.
They turn over all the time.
I'm 107 years old as well, and I would like to ride on a stick of butter. And just go smooth to the finish. So
plus, the best thing about the MASH style Jeep, the Army Jeep, that you probably didn't get, is they're only really fun if you have the big machine gun mounted on the back with the guy to shoot it. Otherwise, they're not nearly as fun.
Right, it's true. There's a little more. It's what did you do in the Army, if I might? Let's go there.
At this point, I was guarding and transporting nukes, and we were threatening to shoot people that would try to touch the nukes.
Oh, who wants to touch nukes?
Well,
bad guys or just people going, oh my God, it's a nuke?
Yeah. Well, there's a place where we kept them and the place where we got to the airport to ship them out. And between them, there was like lots of, civilization. And we had to, convoy them.
Oh, right.
By the way, every convoy that you've ever seen convoying a nuke in TV or movies, they've done it wrong. None of those would be stopped by the helpless woman in the road who had an accident.
They would just drive over her?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you're driving nukes, you have a priority, it turns out.
And
some 32-year-olds.
When they get the convoy to stop and then they capture the nuke and all that kind of stuff. The one thing that we weren't supposed to tell you, my clearance is already is they're sealed in a double container. There's the one with the nuke in it, and then there's the outside container, and there's nerve gas in between. So you're not even going to get the nuke without being like
you're going to get nuked on the way to getting that nuke.
So anyway,
no, I like it. It's I went.
This is a pretty far-ranging.
We'll talk about anything.
Okay,
I'll talk about. So you were guarding nukes. Were you driving the cars, or were you? And when you say between whatever,
it was called a custodial agent. Basically, we guard them, we transport them, and in case they're about to fall into enemy hands, we knew how to blow them up. Under the idea that they would not sympathetically detonate, meaning you can blow up a nuke without actually setting it off as a nuke.
Oh.
Blow it up to keep it out of other people's hands. So I got a few skills.
First of all, that's kind of a relief. Because the thing is if the option is it's going to go a Russian spy, obviously somebody from Rocky and Bullwinkle wants the nuke. There's a way to sort of make it into a non-nuke again. Uranium is probably still there, but it would just be a regular bomb.
It won't be destroyed. You won't be happy.
Right.
But
no one's
you won't have an entire country disappear, just sort of like a block or two.
Right. It's not an episode of Risk Legacy that you've created.
I see. Yeah.
Fair enough. Hey, do you game?
Pardon me?
Do you game? I will ask you about anything.
Yes, okay. I have.
Board games, card games, video games, all of those. Solitaire.
Bet.
What do you like the best?
When I can find a good poker game, that's what makes me happiest.
Weirdly enough, there was somebody who asked about that.
Let's go to it.
Proposition Player is an amazing series, according to Chad Orson.
Thank you, Chad.
Yes, he's here, as a matter of fact.
Thank you, Chad.
Yes. Do you play much poker?
Not as much as when I moved here from Vegas, so I played a little more in Vegas.
Wow, you lived in Las Vegas?
Yeah. I took a year off of comics to play poker professionally for a year just to see if I could. And the answer was yes, I could, but not well. I could afford dinner, but not a good one. I could afford a hotel room, but not a good one. As a matter of fact, the character Joey Martin, the really ramshackle rent by the week dump that he lives in the comic, it was where I was living. It was
really?
Drawn from life. So yeah.
That's so. The people who do play, I mean, because in every job. There's different levels, right?
Uh-huh.
So there are people who say, that'll be enough for me. I still want to play poker for a living and have a shitty dinner and live in squalor because I love poker that much. But you essentially made the decision and you were like, well, I'll just play as a...
Well, no, it was a decision that
was it Texas Hold'em, by the way?
It was often Texas Hold'em. They were still playing 7-card stud a lot when I was doing it. The problem is not that the skill levels don't get appreciably better as the rates go up, as the stakes go up.
Okay.
And until you get to the creme de la creme of poker players, the sitting down $1 million games, they get pretty good. But
that's where the jump is between regularly good players and then it genuinely does
you have the great players, and then probably the next best level of good players are the lowest level because they hold on to their money the way something metaphorically would hold on to something they really metaphorically like a lot.
He's a writer.
Yes, I'm a wordsmith.
A wordsmith.
These are my weapons. But the problem is that I could win enough to keep me going, but what you really want to do is grow your bankroll, that part of money that you can never allow to diminish, so that I could get to the bigger games where people were a little sloppier and I could play a little looser. The tightest players in the world, the people that won't go in on anything but jacks wired, which is a term.
What does it mean?
It means jacks
or better.
2 jacks that no one can see that you have. You get 2 jacks
wired.
down; those are wired.
Got it.
Yeah, and the best, of course, would be something showing, and you got 2 more of them in your hand that they can't see. That
right.
But people would not go in until that. So it was very conservative play. So you had to be very, very tight to play against them. So my game got pretty good.
Yeah.
But never good enough to where I had enough of a bankroll to make the next step up to play with looser players with more silly money.
Okay.
There are lots of levels of players that come into town with just money to throw away, and I would very much have liked to have been one of those sharks circling around, ready to. If you're going to throw it away, I will indeed take it.
Trust fund babies.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I did that for a year, and then went back. I solved for myself like, okay, I can not be homeless on the street as a poker player, but I'm never really going to get better than this.
Right, and so now
I got a book out of it, and
that's what's
time
the
to
book?
get back to proposition players.
Right. Oh, sorry. Hi. Okay, so so I will link that in the notes as well, and
okay.
it's and that'll be good. So what's the next question? What else do I got going on here? Do you hate Aquaman? That's not enough. That's not enough of a question. What do you think about Aquaman? Do you have an opinion about Aquaman? Seems unlikely. Do you?
I suppose if he was to drop by, I'd feed him.
Is he?
I think
is he a vegetarian? Does he only eat seaweed? What do you think Aquaman eats? I've never followed Aquaman myself. Do you read?
I tried to get in. Aquaman was considered pretty success-proof for about 30 years. I understand that the series that they're doing now is pretty good.
Okay.
Haven't read it yet. But Aquaman was terrible for so long, and I tried to do my version of Aquaman, which was basically they established in the DC universe that Aquaman is the king of Atlantis. Atlantis is about 10,000 years ahead of any of the surface worlds in technology and is old sunken Atlantis. So my idea was, if alien ambassadors were going to visit, which they have in the DC universe,
sure.
They wouldn't go to these, barbaric surface worlds. They would go there where there was civilization. So really the story of Aquaman was the story of a guy who was king of the world, literally king of the world, and that our planet was a water world with isolated instances of land, which it is.
Which makes sense, yeah.
So it was all about the politics of being king of the world, and from time to time as a hobby, he'd play at being a superhero because, guys got to have a hobby.
Right.
Other kings would play polo and golf.
Mm-hmm.
I will be a superhero with these quaint, primitive, little barbaric people that are up there.
Right.
But my real job is running the world.
Right.
And DC hated it. They just said, no, we want the guy that gets people out of boats and stuff and saves them. So they didn't go for it. And every once in a while, when Aquaman would whatever take they took on it, then I'd trot it out again and get it rejected. So yeah, I'm a little. I have a love-hate relationship with the character in the sense
that would have been amazing.
But I ended up doing it in. Since I started writing prose, there was this collection that Lou Anders put together called Mass. Excuse me, I'm going to cough.
Okay.
And we had to. It was prose superhero stories from people that wrote superheroes.
Yeah.
And I was writing my prose superhero story, and then I saw Matt Sturgis's That Dog. He was the fellow that co-wrote Jack with me.
Okay.
Jack Offables.
Jack of Fables.
He submitted his story, and I read it, and his was so good that mine was by comparison crap. So I switched to another idea and another. None of them on their own was as good as Matt's story. But I thought, what if I did all of them?
What, you're going to beat him in a numbers game?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like it.
So my story was A to Z in the big company superhero universe, and for every letter of the alphabet, I did a separate story about some superhero.
Wow.
And finally I did my Aquaman story under U for Underman.
Very nice.
And did it. It did exactly that story. Good old DC says, yeah, this is pretty good. You should do some of that kind of stuff for us.
What?
Yeah.
I wish, oh my God,
yeah,
that's the
but,
worst.
You know, the thing is, as a writer, you want to tell stories, and you want to get yourself minimally in a position where you have to beg someone for the permission to tell a good story. So, you know, but sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, I read mostly Marvel, so that sounds like a Namor Black Panther mashup. You know, like if Wakanda and Namor, whatever, because
had a love child.
They're going to turn out to be gay.
Yeah.
And then they're going to dance at the Under the Sea dance. No, anyway, did you see that movie, Back to the Future? Did you ever see Back to the Future?
I did see Back to the Future.
Okay, there we go. So what I usually ask...
I like how you're bobbing and weaving.
I'll go anywhere. I'll go anywhere you want to go. Because I usually ask people what they collect, what they love so much. Is there something you enjoy a great deal?
I collect restraining orders. I don't like them. No, I love
making friends.
I love books. I love books. I think the digital age in comics is going to revitalize a potentially moribund industry. So I'm all for it. But I also want the books on the shelves. I do that. I cannot get out of a bookstore easily.
Right. And we are at a science fiction convention. It's pretty great.
Yeah.
Do you read all kinds of literature?
I read anything that passes my. I am
fiction.
And maybe this is what makes a good writer. That in the grand scoop. You know, you talk about these Bussard ramjets that throw out this great big magnetic scoop to get enough fuel to run a rocket. In the first instance, I will scoop up anything. Okay. Everything gets by the filter at first. The history, the novels, the labels on cereal boxes, anything, because anything could potentially spark a story.
Okay.
But then, as of course it gets closer to the work engine.
Right.
You know, it has to more justify. It has to be a little better, a little more interesting, and then sometimes that turns around to bite you. Early on in my career, I read a magazine called Science 81. It may have been Science 82. They kept changing the name of the magazine
to the year.
With the year.
That is the dumbest business.
I know. It was very stupid. And they were eventually gobbled up by Discover magazine. But Science 81, they would do these little blurbs of just fun, interesting facts from science.
Oh.
And I would read those, just looking for ideas. And I read once, there was just a little blurb that some scientists thought that they could probably, if they ever get cloning down, so they could really do it, we could probably recreate dinosaurs because these little bugs that have been around forever that, snack on brontosaurus. They still actually thought there was such a thing called a brontosaurus back then. And then get caught in amber, and that's preserved, and we could use that genetic material to clone dinosaurs. And I thought, that is a great idea for a story. And then I put it away someday. And of course, Crichton comes along. He had to have seen that same damn thing. Right. And then there's Jurassic Park, and he's,
Did you see that?
I did.
See that movie? Yeah.
I did. Yes, that is my story.
That could have been.
No, it's just, that's just a great example of, like, you scoop up anything, but the gems, boy, make use of them, because they belong to the first one who, not the first one who has the idea. There's no such thing. There's not a bit of value to an idea. None whatsoever. As a matter of fact, when I used to do science fiction conventions and comic conventions and feeling cocky,
what are you doing now?
I would just give away ideas. I'd throw them out, and they'd say, "Why are you giving away these good ideas?" Like a hydra. A hydra, you chop off the head, there's two more. So, where's a medieval story where, like, an entire village, that's just their food supply? It's like they're chopping off heads, and pretty soon they just have this meat bouquet that they're never going to run out of food.
Right.
There's no starvation. If you got a hydra, just go chop it off, and your meat supply doubles. So, Ellen Kushner, who is just a lovely, lovely woman, on the panel says, "Why are you giving that story? That
Why would you say
away?
That out loud? That it doesn't have a
said,
copyright."
Well, no, I was a cocky little shit then, and I said, because even if someone uses it, when I use it, I'll do it better. And
sure,
what an arrogant thing to say. But the whole point is the idea is nothing.
Until
it's only if you put it to use. You see these TV shows like I'm suing you because you stole my idea. There's no value in that.
Once Upon a Time?
No
Grimm?
jury. No.
Does that ever come up?
Look,
anyway.
Good segue, you.
Yeah,
There's no jury in the world that should ever award money for someone taking someone's idea. It's why didn't you write it first? So there you go. That's my opinion on that.
Well, I do think that there's, because obviously
that
parallel
guy disagrees.
Well, that'll happen.
I can't see anyone, so I'm just making that part up. But.
Just some guy shaking his head in the dark. But I do think that parallel thinking does. Do you know Crichton, by the way?
He's dead now. Nobody knows Crichton.
Really?
No, I've never met him.
No, me neither.
I admire him, but I never met him.
Okay.
No, he was the guy that had the idea, but actually did it.
Sure.
And that's the proof of everything.
I do think that a lot of people write parallel thought, and whoever gets noticed first gets the bouquet.
Well, ideas are. Who was it that said, in the age of steam engines, people build steam engines? And the point there is that some ideas are in the air, but even if they aren't, I mean, even if someone has a perfect idea and another guy physically breaks into his house and steals it,
right,
and rushes it into a story first. The writing of the story is what counts. I brought a friend here, Sean, who is in the audience, and I'm going to single him out, who gets paralyzed by, well, this idea might be a little too close to this or a little too close to this, and it's just like, I hope that's not an excuse to not write, because writers will always look for excuses not to write.
Yeah.
But yeah, the idea is nothing. Execute. Okay.
So,
yeah.
It's all production?
Yeah. I'm sorry for the rant. I'm sorry for the lecture.
No, it's a good one.
Since half the people here are working writers, and I should not, try and teach Granny to suck eggs.
Well, but I think that everyone has an opinion about that stuff, and and yours is turns out just as valid as anybody's. It's beautiful.
Yeah, but I also have facts too, so mine is actually even better.
See, and so what do you watch Once Upon a Time or Grimm or any of that?
Of course I do. No, not Grimm. Didn't grab me.
Okay.
It was very much, and maybe it's gotten better since, but in the first episode or two, it was definitely Buffy the Vampire Slayer in fairy tale drag rather than vampires, and Buffy was on its own a good show. Why repeat that?
Yeah.
Once Upon a Time, I think it's terrific. It's a little frustrating, and sometimes when they do things like, "Oh God, I should have had that idea."
Oh right, right.
But once again,
they get to. They get to
the
have
guy
that idea.
who exploits the idea first gets it, not who has the idea,
Right.
Who produces it.
Right, and it's because there is so much great television on, and a lot of there's a lot of crap on too. But
Sure.
have you gone through the pitch process in LA and done all of that?
I've had just enough encounters with Hollywood to have a few good Hollywood stories, and that's about it. I have a theory that nothing has actually ever been made because I don't see any way that the Hollywood system is this. We've been shopping Fables around forever. And so part of my lack of resentment on Once Upon a Time, which is not a ripoff of Fables, getting to the air with their fairy tale show,
right,
is that we had a 10-year head start. So we had every legitimate way to get something on there first. But I found out, I was not in the loop. DC was generous in buying the rights to shop the Fables property around exclusively and not have me involved because it apparently pesky writers getting involved creates all kinds of problems.
Oh, does it?
So they shopped it around, but it turns out that the guy that was shopping it for DC was turning down offers right and left because he had a very particular vision about what he wanted.
Yes.
From time to time, pilots were written for a Fables series.
Right.
I eventually got a look at them, and they were fine pilots.
Some of them were
only, wouldn't have been great if you wrote Fables. Because it had nothing to do with Fables. They, fixed everything. So, yeah, we had every opportunity, and when I say we, they, but I'm going to be connected to any Fables movie or TV regardless, to get there first.
Yeah.
Can't be resentful of the fact that and ABC may well have, look, we tried to make a deal with them and they were undealable, so let's just do our own show along these lines. Or more likely, who else is shopping a fairy tale show? This one, let's do that. And I think that's fine. The question was, did I ever pitch? So, but here's how the TV and movie industry works. You have a guy, hot young Turk, at let's call it this studio.
Right.
He loves Fables. He's going to make it. He is determined that if I do nothing else in this world, I'm going to get Fables, the TV series done.
Yes.
And we've got this, guy, and rah-rah, and it's going to happen. Well, this is a hot young Turk, and hot young Turks don't stay any place very long, and so Sony grabs him and says, we want you to come be our hot young Turk at a higher salary and more thing, and he leaves. Well, the next guy that fills hot young Turk's place, there really is doors that say hot young Turk.
Excellent.
He comes in, and the first thing he does, just like lions, that when a lion takes over a pride, the first thing they do is kill all the cubs so the females will come into a heat.
Oh.
The first thing that the next guy does is, well, I'm not going to continue any of his projects because if they work, he gets the glory. If they fail, I get the blame. No one's going to do that. So the first thing the new guy does is kill every single thing that's in the pipeline. And then starts his own, but then he's lured away, and so all of these things are being killed.
Right.
I don't think anything can ever actually get made, and that anything we thought we saw on TV and or movies is just a figment of our collective imagination. There has never been a movie, there's never been TV, because they can't make them under that system. It cannot be done.
And when that guy goes to Sony, he can't take any of the projects with him because he doesn't own the IP, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's a great...
so that's how I was, dealing with Hollywood just enough to make sure see how that worked. With the exception of Jim Henson Pictures, Lisa Henson wanted to make Fables in the worst way, actually in the best way, and she was the only one who had clearly read all the issues and would ask direct questions about what's going to happen with this character and what's going to happen with this character. And they loved the series, so of course they couldn't make it because DC, some actual hot young Turk came to Warner TV and said, if you can get me Fables as a TV series, I'll work for you guys. And they snatched it right away from her. But that time in Hollywood it broke all my fantasies. They were so nice, and I thought Hollywood people were not supposed to be nice.
Right.
And I didn't even get caught in traffic in L.A. Just
really?
Zoomed right to the studio.
Well, that would have been your first clue that you were living in an illusion.
It was one of those Mission Impossible things where they create an exact duplicate of the city just to fool you into signing away the nuclear secrets, which I had.
Boom.
That's what I think. Anyway.
I think you're right. I think that you're right. So what... you said that there's going to be a Fables convention, or a convention for...
It is called Fabletown and Beyond. It's going to happen next year, right down the road in Rochester, Minnesota.
Minnesotans?
It's going to be in March, so yes, it's going to be kind of a winter fest, but as every Minnesotan knows, we have entire underground cities to where you'll never need to go outside.
Right, and March is nice in Minnesota because you can... There's a heat wave where you can drive around with your windows down and the heat cranked.
Sometimes, yes.
That's my favorite thing to do in Minnesota.
Well, the two seasons
March.
in Minnesota are winter and bad sledding. That's it. But we're going to do... it's March 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. If you go to... It's
2013.
It's Fables 2013. It's Fables and books like it. So, for example... Kill Shakespeare, or Mouse Guard, or Mice Templar, or the stuff
books.
of legend, which is, animate toys. All those kinds of things that are in the folklore, fairy tale, mythology, and literature and talking animal kind of corner of it. Not superheroes, but that kind of, old-fashioned-y kind of stories corner. It's a convention specifically to celebrate those kinds of books. Our guest of honor is going to be Mark Buckingham, who draws Fables, and it's going to be terrific.
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep doing this commercial until you shut me up.
Right. Let's applaud for that, because that's cool.
Let's applaud for that.
I'd like to encourage some applause for that.
More to the point, I have to finish the commercial.
Oh, please.
If you will go right now with all of your little handheld devices, which are not...
Don't do it. Your face is a
Let me clear one thing up. We've gone beyond the Star Trek communicator. Quit calling these things, oh, look, we've done the Star Trek communicator. They could not do all this stuff with that we can.
Yeah.
This is Jack Kirby's mother box. This is New God stuff. So get your mother box out and go to FablesCon, all one word, Fables, plural, con.com.
Okay.
All that's there is a placeholder now, but you can sign up. You can put your email in there, and we will give you all the information as it happens. And if you live in Minneapolis and you like Fables and you don't show up, then, well, you're dead to me.
And you've chosen poorly.
Chosen very poorly.
Have you read most of those other titles you mentioned?
Oh, yeah, I love them. And
who doesn't love a mouse with a sword?
Pardon me?
Mouse with a sword. Mouse with a sword.
Mouse with a sword. Well, see, we love mice with sword ever since Reepicheep in Narnia.
Okay.
I've loved mice with sword. And I think it's because we're paying off a karmic debt. I mean, when the dinosaurs died, all mammals were like these little mice things that lived underground that then eventually grew up to become us. If the dinosaurs hadn't died, or if these mice things had not gotten bold enough to grow up to become us, well, we wouldn't be us.
Right.
So we're saying, by doing all these heroic mice stories, saying, thanks a lot. You helped us out there.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. That's great. And here's your tale. No, I like it. So, did you read a lot of fairy tales as a kid? I mean, what brought that? What made that go? Just because they're awesome, or
well, I liked comic books as a kid. I read comics before I could read because my dad was stationed in Germany, and we had a large family. I had 5 older sisters, so I got a lot of reading to me done because we did not have a TV, which probably explains why we were such a large family.
Right.
Do the math.
But they were also trying to get a boy, maybe, because you're the only boy?
Yeah, no, I had one brother, but but yeah. I
don't know why that's good.
Yeah.
Whatever.
They finally got a boy, and they were going to stop. But apparently, if there's nothing good on TV, and then there was me.
Right.
And then I
was the spare, too. I have 4 older brothers, and my sister was born, and my grandmother said, finally, someone to wait on the boys.
Yeah, I'm kind of happy I exist.
Oh, sure. I'm pretty happy you exist, quite honestly. It's neat. I love Cinderella.
Yeah, so I love comic books.
Okay, yeah.
And the thing about comic books is you quickly find out that a lot of these characters exist in the same fictional universe as each other, and I like that aspect of it. But stories tended not to do that, except the first time I read or got read to me The Three Little Pigs or Red Riding Hood, whichever order they came in,
Right.
and realized, oh, the villain in one's probably it's the Big Bad Wolf. It's the same villain in the others, and suddenly it's like they can do crossovers too. So, so then I got interested in it, and I started reading more, and I love the stories.
I like that there's that you don't do just European, that you're also doing the Middle
Well, we started with
Eastern
European, but we're spreading out. So
yeah, that's neat to me.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and so what would you recommend? Like, people should read your stuff, and they do, and it's lovely, and I thoroughly enjoy it. But what else would you recommend that people should read or see, or that?
Well, if you're all
they might not know of.
caught up on my stuff,
right? If you're all
and you
caught
read
up.
every comic and every
the new
novel,
Fairest came out this week,
and every short story, and you have a little time, and you think there might be something else you might want to read. Is that what you're saying? What other things are there out there?
Yes. Shakespeare.
Well,
Shakespeare's
sure.
pretty great.
That's a two-part answer to the question. First, consider just rereading my stuff, because you'll find other things, gems in there that you didn't find the first time.
It was a pretty good
seriously,
reread.
There is so much, and to the for the most part, I hate these questions only because in the French term, the wit of the stairs, I'll think of all the good answers I should have given too late after the fact.
Right.
That said, there are certain writers I will read anything you wrote. If you like really badass heroes in historical context, anything by Bernard Cornwell, the Sharp series, the Arthurian stuff he does, the medieval stuff. He's doing the 100 Years' War. Bernard Cornwell.
Cornwell. I will put that in the notes. That sounds great.
He does something that I've stolen, which is he has characters in a historical setting, and will write a nice fiction about some famous battle or whatever. But at the end, he'll always say, "This is how I've changed. This is what really happened, and this is how I've changed it to get my character Richard Sharp or my character King Arthur or whatever in there." So I love that.
So he'll give you the real story at the end.
Yeah.
Oh, good for him.
And it's just terrific.
I wish they would have done that in Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
Yeah.
You know, he came later to abolitionism than they imply. Anyway. Bill Willingham, it has been an hour. Do you realize? The time has flown. Yeah,
we
it's
are
pretty
5
great.
minutes overtime.
Well, but
I owe each of you 5 minutes.
It's
I apologize.
Feel free to hunt him down. No, and thank you so much for coming out to a live Dork Forest. There is merch in the back if you want it, and I will sit around and meet everybody. Thank you so much for coming out to the show. Good night, you guys.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you very much. That was good. Boy, that was a quick hour.
They always go amazing.
All right.
My hat. They're dancing around my hat. My hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?